Canelo Alvarez says he prefers not to fight another Mexican fighter, and that includes Jaime Munguia. Please stay tuned. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing if you want to become part of the gang. Notification gang. Please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats channel donations, the Venmo donations, and the Patreon family. The king of this boxing talk, boxing news and updates is back. And, you know, this is going to be an interesting one because Canelo made a recent statement. We'll jump right into it. To ESPN Deportes, you will see it on the screen. He's promoting his great fight with Daniel Jacobs, Cinco de Mayo weekend, Canelo versus Daniel Jacobs, right? And everybody's hyped about the fight. We got to see a press conference. They're going to continue the press conference in Mexico. But Canelo has now said something that I think is worthy of making this video. So that's what I'm doing. And he says, as you guys see on the screen, Canelo Alvarez does not want more Mexican rivals. So I'm like, you know, this is interesting. Let's hear what he's talking about. And, you know, I'll link in the description. But to paraphrase, basically, he's saying he prefers not to fight another Mexican fighter. He doesn't want to fight because he represents Mexico, right? And we'll go to direct pull quotes. Canelo Alvarez, I was born ready, does not want more Mexican rivals, right? If possible, the international boxing star Canelo Alvarez does not want to have a Mexican rival in front. Despite the fact that many people, including his promoter, Wonderboy Promotions, believes that Jaime Munguia from Tijuana could be transversed on his way later or earlier. Already last December, he expressed that possibility in a conversation with Jorge of ESPN, which he reiterated this week at ESPN Zone with Fernando. Although he did not completely close the door, thinking that if the fans believe that is best for him, he could do it. But this is what Canelo said. I represent Mexico, and this is how I see it. I like to represent my country, and I do not like the idea of facing a Mexican because I represent Mexico, and I like that, and I am proud of that. I am proud of it, said Canelo, currently ranked third in the pound for pound list on ESPN. But people at the end of the day want people, what people want is what I like to do. And if they consider it a good fight, I do it. But personally, I would not like it, and I'll stick with the idea. I expressed it not to face Mexicans because I represent Mexico. So I was stressed in the talk. In his last 25 duels, Canelo has faced 4 Mexican fighters of Mexican blood. Alfonso Gomez, Josecito Lopez, Alfredo El Perro Angulo, and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. have been his victims. Currently in the scene arise fighters like Jaime Munguia, David Benavidez, and Gilberto Ramirez as possible rivals. You know, and this is little face-off. After the press conference in New York, Canelo Alvarez told ESPN that he wished there were more people like him in Mexico, as well as more strikers, even as legendary golfer who, despite their success, have attracted too much critics. Canelo will try to become the first Mexican to hold 3 titles in the same weight division when he goes in a unified, undisputed, or unification match against the American Daniel Jacobs, May 4th, etc. Daniel Jacobs believes that Canelo lost both fights to Golovkin. You know, that's a future video. But for now, we got to talk about this. Now, you know, I gotta totally disagree with Canelo Alvarez right here. And you know, if you guys follow the channel, you know I'm a big fan of Canelo's fighting style. He's a good ambassador for boxing. And I know this might ruffle feathers, but new media, we gotta talk about it. See, this is what I'm talking about when I come to the double standards in boxing. You have Canelo Alvarez, who's the face of boxing. He got one of the richest, actually the richest sports contract in history. And he's openly telling you, you know, per his choice, he don't want to fight Jaime Munguia and or another Mexican fighter. But the problem I have with that is there's a couple things. One, this is a sport. It's a combat sport. This is not like soccer where you're just representing, and this is microcosm of what we deal with in boxing. You know, this is not like, I get it in like the Olympics or maybe like the World Cup or something. It's like Mexico versus Estados Unidos. You know, it's U.S. versus Brazil. You know, I get that. You know, that's a little bit different. But boxing, it's just one-on-one. It's supposed to be a combat sport and the best of the best. And if that happens to be the case where the two fighters that are relevant and the best are from the same area or region, you know, I don't see why that fight wouldn't happen. So I don't really like this statement for Canelo because, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I know a lot of people who are, you know, prideful, la raza, and they'll say things to the effect like, you know, Mexico breeds the best fighters. Cool. But if that's the case, then how could we not see, you know, we can't see Canelo versus a Jaime Munguia if that happens to be the match. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know if his PR person, you know, said, hey, you know, you'll get Mexico on your side if you say that. But I think ultimately, and you know, I can't speak on behalf of a whole country, but I think people want to see the best in combat sports. You know, isn't this what they ridiculed Floyd Mayweather for? They said, oh, Floyd, he don't want to fight the best. So Floyd Mayweather, he's not fighting this person or that person, right? This is what fans said. So I can't get behind a statement like this with Canelo because I've been a longtime fan of the sport. And the other thing is this, when it comes to boxing, you just got to fight your contemporaries. And imagine if other past Mexican great fighters shared this same sentiment where they said, oh, you know, I don't want to fight another Mexican. You know, we wouldn't have seen a great trilogy. One of my favorite trilogies, Marco Antonio Barrera, the babyface assassin versus Eric Morales. You know, we wouldn't have got to see fights like that. You know, Barrera and Juan Manuel Marquez, Juan Diaz and Juan Marquez. Like, we wouldn't have got to see that. You know, so to me, I don't believe you could pick and choose your rivals or your contemporaries. You know, I don't think it's fair. Just be honest with yourselves. You know, you could thumb down the video or whatever, but imagine if a black fighter, let's say Deontay Wilder, says, I'm not fighting Anthony Joshua. I don't want to fight another black person. What would the public say? You know, or I'm not fighting Luis Ortiz. That's an Afro-Cuban. I'm not fighting Gerald Miller or whoever the person that, you know, is. And I know some people are going to try to play semantics and play this bullshit like, oh, Mexican's not a race, and, you know, and play, but we know what we're talking about. So please don't, you know, we know Canelo's saying, I mean, it's clear as day. He says Canelo Alvarez does not want more Mexican rivals. But if David Benavidez, for example, you know, he did the drug thing and he's bounced back, he's going to be on the Errol Spence card with Mikey Garcia, and that's going to be a great fight. Is it going to be a great fight? He's on that card. So I'm sure there's going to be a ton of like Mexican fans and just fans from around the world at that particular fight. So he's going to get a lot of exposure fighting on the Errol Spence Mikey Garcia card. So if it's built up and Canelo wants to dabble again, you know, with a better opponent than Rocky Fielding at 168, then David Benavidez might be it, Mexican American. You know, he might be a name that people want to see. Or Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez, they've sparred in the past, Canelo and him. So, you know, this statement or this outlook of I don't prefer it is really, really, to me, this is a dub. Like, this is not a good look for me, because again, think about the classic matches, and then it makes you wonder, like, you started pro in 15 fighting in Mexico, so I'm sure he had to, on the way up, fight a ton of Mexican fighters because that's the market he was in. He was learning on the job, right? And then since then, like this article says, you fought Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Why'd you want to fight him? You know, what's the difference between Jaime Munguia? Now, we know, you know, we prepare for everything. I know a lot of the man fans, they're going to hear what I say and not disprove it, but they're going to get angry and say, oh yeah, and try to think of random instances where why doesn't Floyd fight Broner, or why doesn't Daniel Jacobs fight Demetrius Andrade, different stuff like that. But guess what? Demetrius Andrade and Daniel Jacobs, they said they don't prefer to fight each other, true, but they grew up together in the amateur circuit. You know, they are both snack athletes, so they were just in their separate training camps. Andrade for Walter Katandakwa, and Jacobs was preparing for Derevyanchenko. So aside from the amateur stuff, to this day, like Wilder said, to this day, you know, they've maintained a friendship and worked closely together with each other. So I could understand that type of brotherhood or camaraderie. You know, like the Klitschko's aren't going to fight each other. Marcos Maidana said he didn't want to fight Lucas Matisse. That would have been a great fight. Great fight. But Matisse and Maidana, they didn't want to fight each other, you know, and we've seen this. So I respect it. But the thing is, Canelo's not saying that. Him and Jaime Munguia is actually younger than him. Jaime Munguia is only 21. So it's not like they came up. Canelo doesn't even have a vast amateur background, for starters. You know, Jaime Munguia Canelo's about 28, 29 maybe, and Jaime Munguia is 21. So it's not like a fight like that particular fight, or same thing with David Benavidez. These guys are 22, so there's no way that they're younger than Canelo. So it's not like they came up at the same time as amateurs at the same time and developed this fondness and brotherhood, you know. And beyond that, he's not saying I don't want to fight Jaime Munguia particularly. He says, you see the article, Alvarez does not want more Mexican rivals. And, you know, I just think that's bullshit, because again, it robs the fans of, you know, whatever fights are available. And again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say, you know, Mexico has some of the best fighters, which would mean the best versus the best, because they do. Mexico does have a lot of great fighters. So that definitely means that Canelo may not have to face some of the other great fighters. So he just wants to fight people from other reasons. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not advocating for like you to, it's not even a pride thing. Like, let's say Gennady Golovkin. Hey, no, guys, hey, Max. Right? He's from Kazakhstan. He doesn't really have a relevant, you know, financially successful guy from Kazakhstan that he should be fighting to the point where it makes sense for him to fight. So I'm not saying, you know, you need to pick somebody from your immediate roots and your soil. I'm not saying that, because like I said, with Gennady Golovkin, he doesn't really even have somebody that's in his weight class that's relevant like him, you know, the hot prospect or champion in his weight class, to the point where he needs to fight a fellow Kazakh, you know. I'm not saying that, but just to outright say you don't want to fight anybody like that happens to be, you know, I just think that's too far. And you know, it sounds good, and it might get a lot of people like rah like, oh yeah, Canelo, you know, he's doing it for us and prideful, but I can't condone it. You know, I don't like that type of talk. Again, if you're okay with him saying this, then you should be okay with Errol Spence saying, hey, I don't want to fight Terrence Crawford because he black. You know, man down, everybody else not black, you know? And you know, it would be an uproar if that happened, or anyone else. So, you know, if there's a Puerto Rican, you know, Miguel Cotto, and everyone wanted to see him fight Felix Tito Trinidad or whoever, and Cotto didn't do it, then you know what people would say. So, you know, we got to get past stuff like this in boxing. Again, if there's a personal relationship there, damn, they put a crazy ass picture. You know, if there's a personal relationship there, actually, that's a good picture. Here, peep this. Daniel Jacobs got his IBF title fighting Derevyanchenko. They were trained by the same trainer. Now, I get it. They're not from the same national origin and stuff like that. You know, it's not the same complexion, but they were gym mates and gym buddies. Jacobs still fought him for a title, and they had the same trainer. And we've seen stuff like this again. And again, the thing I have is there are a lot of great fighters from Mexico, so you rob the fans of it. And see, this is the fake part about boxing fans. There's a lot of people who advocate, you know, like Triple G saying Mexican style, and some people are saying that, you know, this ethnicity or group has the best fighting style and stuff like that. But then we can't see certain fights. I don't believe that. I don't think a black fighter, a white fighter, a Mexican fighter should rule out fighting people from their same roots. You know, what if Americans did that? You know, oh, I ain't fighting this. I ain't fighting a fellow American. You know, and people try to make it like this is acceptable. You know, and we see this. This is a microcosm of boxing. Like they had David Benavidez on the Showtime telecast ahead of the Gervonta Tank Davis Hugo Ruiz fight, late replacement to Abner Mares, right? They said, who you got to pick? Brian Custer's like, who you got to pick today? He's like, I'm Mexican, so I'm going with Hugo Ruiz. You know, even though the world knew Hugo Ruiz moving up in weight, Tank's power, you know, was probably going to get bodied, and he did in one round. We heard Canelo break down Spence versus Mikey Garcia, and it sounded like what he was saying was leaning towards Spence, but then he says, as always, my support is with the Mexican. That's his direct quote. That's not me paraphrasing. He directly said that, you know? So people say, oh, this and that, oh, ego, new media, it's not about race, you know, it's not about this, it's not about that. But imagine if everyone says statements like that. I'm not fighting another black person. I'm not fighting another American. You know, I'm going with the black guy because, you know, as always, that's what my pride is with. You know, even no matter how unrealistic, you know. So I don't prefer, you know, Canelo saying he doesn't prefer to fight a Mexican rival. Well, I don't prefer this type of talk because I think boxing is about the best versus the best. I get the pride, and, you know, you can come out to whatever music you want. You can wave a flag, trunks, and, you know, celebrate heritage in multitudes of ways. You know, the WBC, I think, does a very good job of celebrating its heritage. You know, they have the Huicho belts, and, you know, now they're doing a Mayan belt, I think, for Canelo Jacobs. But just to outright say, I don't really want to fight any guys who come from the same region as me, you know, that doesn't make sense for the sport. You get what I'm saying? Again, if there's a personal relationship, then, you know, that can be arranged. But truth be told, I've seen pictures with Canelo and Julio Cesar Chavez when they were first coming up at parties and stuff years before. I never seen that with Jaime Munguia before Canelo moved to DAZN and stuff like that. So, you know, I think the best should fight the best, no matter what your national origin is, your pride levels. That's for the right of the sport. You know, look at fights like Orlando Salido versus Francisco Vargas. You know, that was a war. You know, Mickey Roman versus Miguel Berchelt was a war. So, you know, using Canelo's logic, if every fighter thought like he's saying, then we wouldn't have got those fights. We wouldn't have got Mickey Roman versus Miguel Berchelt. You know, I just want to see good scraps. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you look like. You can scrap if styles make fights. You know, so I think Canelo, he missed the mark on this particular comment, me personally, because what it does is, like, and the other thing is, how can you do this now when you fought in Mexico probably from 15 to 19 and fought majority of Mexican fighters? You know what I'm saying? So what's the sudden change? You fought Julio Cesar Chavez, you fought against Alfonso Gomez. You know, how are you going to just target any other group outside of, you know, the Mexican culture or guys from Mexico? I just don't. Again, if you support that, then tell me you would be okay with Errol Spence. It's all about keeping it consistent and fair. So tell me if Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford said they don't want to fight each other because I'm not fighting another black male. You know, these cops is killing innocent black males, so we ain't doing black on black crime, or I'm not fighting a fellow American, then you better be okay with that too, right? But we know the deal. That's my thoughts. I don't approve of it. I like Canelo, but, you know, this seems like, I don't know. You know, maybe he feels like that. Maybe it's a PR move, but you can't just say, in my opinion, I represent Mexico. So, you know, like I said, Juan Manuel Marquez and Juan Diaz, that was a great fight. That's what got Marquez the fight with Mayweather off of that performance, because he had already done everything he needed to do at lightweight. So to me, if Canelo actually, I know he says he doesn't prefer it or whatever, but if he actually goes through with this and like puts his foot down, and he has the A-side power to do that, you know, because he's popular. But if he actually goes through with this and despite the willingness, you know, is hesitant to fight certain guys because of their ethnicity, then, you know, I can't support that aspect of it. You know, it would rob the fans of too many potential great fights. You know, you're a fighter. You got to fight whoever it is. You know, this is, like I said, this is not soccer where it's like my country versus your country, or the Olympics or something like that, where everyone bands together. But, you know, again, this is a microcosm of what goes on in boxing. Drop Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you smash the like button as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.